Want a quick 10-minute wrap-up of the week's compliance news? Well, this is the podcast for you, 10 for 10, where Tom Fox, the voice of compliance, wraps up 10 top compliance stories which occurred over the past week. If you don't know, Tom has a daily news podcast, appropriately called the Daily Compliance News, and 10 for 10 wraps up the week. So get up on a Saturday morning, have a great cup of coffee, and check out 10 for 10, the podcast which gives you the week's top compliance news. Are you interested in upping your game in compliance through the use of AI and machine learning technology? Well, check out my latest book, Upping Your Game, How Compliance and Risk Management Move to 2030 and Beyond. You can check it out in the show notes. I've got a link to the purchase at Amazon.com. Upping Your Game. 10 for 10 for the week ending May 17, 2025. Also from the Wall Street Journal, how do you do money laundering? Well, apparently you go to certain Southern California banks, including Chase, Bank of America, and Citibank branches across Los Angeles County, and you deposit cash. And this story reports that one California morning, undercover officers watched Zhang Yongyu step out of a Land Rover in front of a Chase bank and deposit more than $100,000. He then did the same at Bank of America branches in Claremont and other locations. Federal authorities allege he worked as an underground banking network that brought dollars at a discount from Mexico's Sinaloa drug cartel and sold them at a premium largely to Chinese nationals in the U.S. The network allegedly handled some $50 million in proceeds from drug trafficking over 4 years, depositing a portion in tainted cash at ATMs and teller windows in and around Los Angeles County. Have to wonder where the banks were on that one. Next up, from the Wall Street Journal, the law section, the Justice Department to reward tipsters reporting immigration violations and tariff cheats. Turns out the Trump administration does like whistleblower programs, particularly if it's for initiatives that they are prioritizing, which of course are immigration and tariff evasion. The Justice Department said on Monday it would pay for tips related to procurement fraud and violations that result in support for terrorist drug cartels and other groups. Whistleblowers will be eligible to reap up to 30% of any funds forfeited to the government as long as the proceeds exceed $1 million. The DOJ whistleblower program was created under the Biden administration in an effort to target crimes that weren't addressed by other federal agencies' whistleblower programs. Prosecutions identified money laundering, domestic corruption, and healthcare fraud as top priorities. This program has been in place literally since Dodd-Frank, and it's been a huge success, and now the DOJ is upping the ante on it. Next up, from the BBC, reports that Apple is asking appeals courts to pause a district court's recent ruling in a case that could determine the future of its highly lucrative App Store. The judge found that the tech giant willfully violated the order she previously made in a case filed by Epic Games, and that order from 2021 demanded Apple refrain from anti-competitive conduct and pricing. And the court found that Apple's law flouting was extraordinary, and so extraordinary that she referred the case to criminal prosecutors. So Apple says it wasn't me, and they want the court's ruling overturned. Another big tech company, Google, faces a potential $3.3 billion antitrust lawsuit in Italy. The suit, which leans on an EU ruling, alleges the tech giant abused its market dominance to suppress competition from an Italian company. So more trouble for big tech in the EU. Next up, the Gautam Adani, the Indian financier who was indicted near the end of the Biden administration, is meeting with Trump officials, or at least his team is, to try to get him out of the indictment. I must say that with all things Trump, it's not a question of when, it's only a question of how much. How much will he pay for this? Whether that payment is purchase of meme coin stock, whether it's a donation, whether it's something else. But if Adani wants out of this, he has certainly come to the right place with Donald Trump. Next up, in a very interesting article from the Financial Times, insurers have launched cover for losses caused by AI chatbot errors. Insurers at Lloyd's of London have launched a product to cover companies for losses caused by malfunctioning AI tools as the sector aims to profit from concerns about the risk of costly hallucinations and errors by chatbots. The insurance will be underwritten by several Lloyd's groups and will cover costs such as damages and fees. Companies have obviously rushed to adopt AI to boost efficiency, but some tools, including customer service bots, have faced embarrassing and costly mistakes. So, insurance comes to the rescue. Probably the biggest and most ubiquitous story in this week was the purported gift by Qatar of a $400 million jet airplane to Trump. Trump says, of course, he's going to take it, not recognizing that this is clearly violation of the Emoluments Clause and probably numerous federal laws, although I guess the Supreme Court said law doesn't apply to Trump. And it's as bad a look as one can possibly have, but once again, it's Donald Trump, and that is not really on his radar. So it's going to be interesting to see whether the Republican Party continues to keep its tail between its legs and not do anything. Next up, Reuters asks, is now the time to seek relief from the SEC, which has barred certain individuals as a base of settlement agreements and instituted professional suspensions. Each year, the SEC permanently bars dozens of individuals from the securities industries. It also imposes professional suspensions on attorneys and accountants for various wrongful conduct. Now the time may be to try to get essentially a pardon or suspension overturned from the SEC. Once again, this is Donald Trump, so the process is relatively straightforward. You hire a lawyer who's close to the Trump administration, you pay him $1 million, and then they tell you how much it will cost to get you out of whatever imbroglio you're in, whether that is a donation, whether that's a purchase of stock, or maybe even something else. So I would say that yes, now is the time to do so. In a troubling story from Bloomberg, House committee hid language in its budget bill, which will prevent states from regulating artificial intelligence, a move that will obviously benefit tech companies because they'll have no regulation, but it would certainly hurt states who are trying to protect their own citizens. They couch it in terms of we will have federal oversight, but of course that would require Congress to do something, which they've shown no inclination to do so anyway. Now, there are lots of laws on the books that regulate trade and other business conduct, and those will certainly be applied to AI and have already. But for Congress to try to ban states from regulating AI just shows you the depth of the corruption at literally the federal level. And our final story is about stress tests and stress testing. It comes to us as an op-ed piece from the Financial Times, which says that scenario planning is getting a stress test. And the writer, Angeli Ravel, says that companies are really not going through the necessary planning of scenario planning that they typically would because things are so chaotic. Well, I would suggest that as they are chaotic, now is the time for more scenario planning, and that's one of the things I've talked about in multiple podcasts. But now is not the time to sit on your hands and wait and wait and wait. Even with dynamic chaos caused by the Trump administration, scenario planning is even more important today. This is Tom Fox again. 10 for 10 is a special production of the Compliance Podcast Network. I'd also urge you to check out the Daily Compliance News, which posts every week from Monday to Friday, where I give 4 curated stories of bribery, corruption, and compliance events that will allow you to help you start your day as well. So check out the Daily Compliance News and subscribe or rate and review to both 10 for 10 and the Daily Compliance News. Thanks so much for listening to this episode of 10 for 10. I hope you'll check out the newest podcast in the Compliance Podcast Network, the Compliance Tip of the Day. In Compliance Tip of the Day, I give a 5 to 8 minute summary of one tip that you can integrate into your compliance program or put together for greater compliance program efficiency. Finally, if you're a Sherlock Holmes fan, I am preparing a new season of Adventures in Compliance where I go through the 4 novels of Sherlock Holmes. Hear it on the Compliance Podcast Network.